I'm Jess Goodman. I'm broadcasting from Mississauga, Canada, but I work with a really skilled team from around the world. In Canada, in Calgary, and in the Philippines, and even in India and Pakistan. We have people who are contributing, technically creating content, experts in wellness fields, including fitness and yoga, relaxation training, breathing, and so forth. So, hello to everybody. This is our first presentation, and we're going to be focusing now and going forward on the iHeart system of wellness, which promotes inner mobility. And I'll explain a bit more about that in a while. And we use a high resolution, high sampling rate oximeter. Just grab that. It's here. That provides some really profound insights into health. And I want to start off by taking this perspective as somebody, myself, who has been practicing medicine, kind of general practice, family medicine, since about 1980. To really give a shout out to the sense that it's really important for people to feel the ability to care for themselves, understand the basis for health, and not really feel that if you are ill, you're going to go to the doctor, and that's going to help you stay well and promote your longevity. Doctors are largely illness-focused rather than wellness-focused. And wellness is something that a lot of people, wellness again. Wellness is something that people have a hard time getting their heads around. What I and the iHeart team would love to do is to make it really easy for people to understand how human health works and what to do to stay well and live a good, long life. There's this story or parable that if you put a frog into hot water, it jumps out. But if you put the frog into a pot of cold water and gradually heat it up, it won't move because it won't sense the change in the temperature. And that's a lot like human beings. As we move from infancy to youth, onto adolescence and adults, we don't really feel different. I am, as you can see, 70. I don't feel 70. I get up in the morning, I'm excited about the day, I'm looking forward to, seeing how things work out. It's still an adventure. But over these 70 years, I have changed. And it impairs my ability to, move in the same way I did when I was 18 or, go long, or pull an all-nighter, in my 20s, all that sort of stuff. But shoulders and hips and knees and all that sort of stuff, it's subtle. And you don't really think about it too much because you don't have a sense that, number one, I know how this stuff works, and number two, I know how to keep it functioning. So I'm going to try to give you a presentation that makes it really easy for you to understand how health works and how to use the iHeart oximeter to give you feedback and tell you how you are doing. So how does health work? I'm going to borrow from the knowledge that came to us over hundreds, if not thousands of years, from the disciplines of yoga and Tai Chi and other internal arts that was developed and passed down by very, very compassionate individuals who wanted to systematize the information so that it could easily be passed down from ancient to modern to you. This is a gift from the ages. Yoga is widely known to promote flexibility of the spine and the importance of breathing to good health. Why? The spine is sort of the framework of the body. And you can imagine the body being broken down into 4 cavities arrayed along the length of the spine. There's the skull and the spinal cord as one cavity, the chest as the second, the abdomen as the third, and your pelvis as the fourth. And that's it. That's the whole lecture on human anatomy. The idea is to make it very simple to understand. With these 4 cavities, and with youthful movement of the core of the body, the spine, the rib cage, the diaphragm muscle, if you have youthful mobility of this part of your body that we call inner mobility, with every single breath, you are doing everything you need to stay strong and live long. When you take a breath with youthful inner mobility, the rib cage expands at the bottom and at the top. If you look at young people, or infants anyways, they breathe in with their tummies. And as you get older, you tend to breathe with your chest up here. But youthful inner mobility lets the entire rib cage expand. And when that happens, the pressure inside your chest drops. Because that pressure's dropped, air flows into your lungs. With that drop in pressure, blood is drawn back from the legs and arms and head to return to the heart, to give the heart a boost and promote heart function. With every single breath, you are able to massage your internal organs here. On the right, your liver; on the left, your spleen, your stomach, pancreas, kidneys, intestines, and below that, the pelvic organs. You don't need to know what these organs are or where they're located. You need to know 4 cavities that are activated with each breath if you have youthful inner mobility. As your diaphragm drops, it squeezes the liver that's shaped exactly to fit under the diaphragm, and the spleen that's exactly shaped to fit here, and the kidneys back here. And just like a sponge being wrung out, it promotes fluid out and in, out and in. These beautiful massaging tidal forces push fluid along the tiny little canals in your internal organs, called sinusoids in your liver. And along these little canals are cells that do the work of life. In the liver, taking toxins out, providing sugar to the body as required. So many things. But fluid has to flow through the liver. And the pressure in these sinusoids is quite low compared to blood pressure. Only a few millimeters of mercury compared to an average of about 100 millimeters of mercury in the bloodstream. So the pumping of the heart isn't enough. As you breathe, as the diaphragm drops and then rises, you are helping every one of your organs to do its job. You don't need to know anything about organ function. Just give your body the ability to, with every breath, promote health in the internal organs, help with heart function, and promote breathing. One other thing that happens with breathing may surprise you. And this is based on science that's emerged over about the last 15 or 20 years. People have wondered, what is the pump that pumps fluid up the spine, up to the brain, around the brain, and then through the brain itself? The brain has 4 little lakes on either side. They're called ventricles. And they're connected by these tiny, narrow little passages. And it's so important for this fluid. It's called cerebrospinal fluid, CSF. It's really important for CSF to flow through the brain, bringing nutrients to the brain, taking toxins away, and as this fluid flows through the ventricles have these cells on their lining called choroid plexus. You don't have to remember any of this. Just remember that with each breath, fluid is pumped up your spine to your brain. As that fluid passes the choroid plexus, it sucks in old CSF and secretes new, pure CSF. And as a doctor, I've been lucky enough to see cerebrospinal fluid with lumbar punctures. It's the most beautiful, pristine, clear fluid you've ever seen. How important is it for you to keep that fluid pure? To ensure good brain function, to give you good energy, and to make sure that the brain doesn't deteriorate over time because of accumulating toxins. So here we are. 4 cavities in the body: head and spine, chest, abdomen, pelvis. With youthful inner mobility, every breath acts as an engine of health. That's the whole system of understanding here. It's not complicated. And if you understand your power to physically give your body the ability to move well with each breath, you've done your job. You don't have to think about it. You can just walk, hike, get on your elliptical, do some yoga, do some Tai Chi, go for some Pilates, go to a club, do some circuits. It doesn't really matter as long as you do it. Listening to your body, sensing the changes that happen with exercise, understanding that there are benefits to a good diet without a lot of oxidative type substances that can age your tissues. The importance of drinking enough fluids to promote circulation. And the importance of trying to manage your stress. Because when you are stressed out, you really don't breathe all that well. So from here we can jump to the iHeart oximeter. And one of the things this precision oximeter can do is to measure your stress levels. We have an app, one of 5 apps, all free, called iHeart HRV, Heart Rate Variability. And this is pretty simple. It measures how much your heart is speeding up as you breathe in and as more blood is returned to the heart, and how much it slows down as you exhale. If you're taking nice, slow, deep breaths, your heart will speed up and slow down quite a bit with each breath. The younger you are, the more variable this will be. But if you're stressed, you're not going to be able to relax and just take those good, deep, healing breaths. So iHeart HRV will show you how you're doing, and if you can get your stress level down and relax a bit, it will show you the benefit I guess that's biohacking or biofeedback, but it's one of the ways that you can assess where you are and the benefits of energy and time you put into helping your body move well, making sure that you take time to eat and not eat for too many hours a day and give your guts a good chance to metabolize and rest. And taking some time every day to just sit and try to stay in a nice, calm, tranquil place without too many thoughts. Or go for a walk and just listen to the sound of the wind in the leaves and not worry too much about the stuff on your agenda for today. Life is long. Every day is important in terms of making sure that your body and your mind are where they are to sustain you, help you feel well, and give you the ability to last as long as you can. We only go around once. There's I'll jump off on a big tangent here and turn to something that is a little bit different, but it'll end up being the same place. There's a book by an author called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. It's called On Death and Dying. It's not a big book, but a fantastic book. It talks about the process people go through when they find their health has declined and they are likely to pass. And she outlines several phases. The first of which, and this is really important, is denial. It's so hard to change gears, to accept, to become somebody who is different, who doesn't have the same future. And after that, there's a sense of, how do we fix this? Looking around for things that are just going to flip us back. And then there's a sense of anger. Why me? And then a stage where you've kind of given up. What do I do? How can I navigate this new place where everything has changed? And finally, you're able to do what you can with where you are and enjoy your time on the planet. And you get to a point where you are accepting of your new life. The cool thing about all this is that it really applies to all great losses in life. Loss of a job, loss of a partner, loss of something that you've worked so hard to accumulate. We as human beings, we have an awfully hard time letting go of the image we have of ourselves. I'm 70 on the outside, but I don't feel 70. I don't want to feel 70. I want to be that same person growing up who had infinite possibilities and all the energy and physical stuff that go along with that. I, like everybody else on the planet, I'm in denial a bit. I don't want to have to do all of those things to keep myself young, because I already feel young. But I was fortunate that in my early 20s, I met a Taoist monk. His name was Moylan Shin. And he taught Tai Chi. And I just graduated from medical school a little while before. And was a little bit perturbed by the fact that I didn't know much about wellness, just how to manage illness. And he introduced me to a new way of looking at the body that's very integrated, that's based on movement and inner mobility, allowing every breath to take care of every part of your body. And he showed me how movement is all the same thing. This grand spiral that connects us up, that we use when we walk, we use when we swim, and to just feel where things are now. Recognize the tight areas. And don't try to just blast past them, but connect them up above and below, and gently try to stretch things out, stimulating those cells in your tissues, your muscles and tendons, your ligaments, your fascia. Those cells called fibroblasts that change electrically when you stretch them, so that as you put a stretch this way, they know to grow tissue that way. So just by doing movements, natural movements, you're telling yourself how to repair, how to maintain. But you have to do it. And you have to kind of relearn how you moved when you were young. You have to learn how the body lines up, how the body stretches all together, and how to mobilize your spine in a very coordinated way, but very effective way, all the way from top to bottom. And if you do that, then things start happening. So here's something that everybody can do, just to give you, all the folks at home, an understanding of how little we really know about health and how wonderful our bodies are in terms of our circulation. So you're going to put a hand just at the back of your head here, all right? And, just feel the temperature there, right? Feel the temperature at the back, not on your neck, but on the bone just at the back there. Feel that and now put your hand right at the top. And most people are going to feel there's a warm spot up here. And if you ask a doctor, why is that so? Most doctors are not going to be aware of that phenomenon at all. But if you ask somebody who has an understanding of ancient Chinese medicine and Tai Chi and Taoist principles, they'll say that's easy. Heat rises along the spine, carried up. Every time you take a breath, some of that beautiful CSF changes from liquid phase to vapor phase, and that carries the heat up very quickly. It's called the heat pump effect. And we're pumping fluid up the spine. We're pumping fluid with each breath through our liver, spleen, and other internal organs. If you get stiff in this part of your body, it has effects on everything, but it also has effects on the heart and the cardiovascular system that are really important. There's a big blood vessel that runs from the heart down through the chest and the abdomen called the aorta. And it is plastered against the spine. This is important for two reasons. One, as the spine stiffens, the aorta stiffens. They are coupled mechanically, so that if the aorta becomes stiff, there are cardiovascular consequences. And the other thing that this is really important for is that the aorta has a pulse wave that travels down from the heart that reflects back up and all the way onto the finger. And with the iHeart oximeter, we can see that reflected pulse wave, measure how fast it's traveling, aortic pulse wave velocity, and that tells us how stiff the aorta is. So we can tell from the finger how stiff the aorta is, and that tells us how flexible your spine is. If the aorta stiffens, and it does for all of us, gradually over our lifespan. Then the pulse wave that travels down from the heart, down the aorta, that is reflected back up to the heart with every heartbeat, that in a young person gets back to the heart just as the heart goes from contraction to relaxation. That returning pulse wave keeps the pressure up here, higher, and allows blood to flow into the coronary arteries, feeding the heart muscle while the heart is relaxed. What beautiful, subtle timing. Down, up, getting back just at the right time to maintain pressure in the aortic root, letting blood flow into the coronary arteries, feeding the heart as it relaxes. Something happens as we get into our 30s. The aorta starts to stiffen. And because of that, pulse waves travel down and come back much more quickly. Getting back so early that the reflected wave meets that outgoing pulse wave. And what happens? Pressure goes up. And that's essential hypertension caused by stiffness here and early return of that reflected wave. And there's a big body of scientific literature that tries to convince everybody in the medical profession that central cardiovascular phenomena are terribly important for good heart function. Because with higher blood pressure, it's going to affect the kidneys. It'll affect the brain too, because a high peak pressure moment will travel up the carotid arteries to the small little arteries in the brain, disrupt the lining of those little arteries and arterioles, and that will cause a clot to form and an area of brain cell death to develop. You may think that this is an unusual thing, but if you look at MRIs of people from 40 on, almost everyone has these little spots. They're called microangiopathic change, or teeny-weeny little areas of stroke or brain cell death that, as they accumulate, can cause cognitive decline and dementia. High blood pressure is the biggest risk factor for dementia. If that reflected wave comes back too early, the heart has to work harder to push blood out. That leads to weakening of the heart muscle and heart failure. Because it's coming too early, when the heart starts to relax, there's not enough pressure to drive blood into the coronary arteries, decreasing flow to the heart muscle, leading to heart disease, coronary artery disease, and so forth. So there's some very specific changes as a result of aortic stiffness related to cardiovascular function. And we can sense the stiffness of the aorta and the spine that are biomechanically coupled by looking at the shape of the pulse in the finger. And we have an app called iHeart Internal Age that can measure that. A third app called iHeart Brain is able to sense changes in blood pressure by looking at the fingertip pulse. Not absolute blood pressure, but changes in overall blood pressure. When you stand up, yay, we're still live. Thought I'd screw that one up. When you stand up, your blood pressure falls. It's called the orthostatic effect. It's normal. It happens. The body is able to manage this using the unconscious nervous system called the autonomic nervous system that kicks in, speeding up heart rate, increasing the force of contractions, driving blood up from the abdomen and other parts of the body so that the brain has enough blood flow. We can follow that pattern as the blood pressure drops and then gets back up. In a young person, it's very, very nice. 20, 30 seconds later, you're there and it's well sustained. But with aging, illness, stress, and other factors, that pattern changes. So for the first time, we're able to give people a highly integrative metric for brain function, By measuring aortic stiffness, we give you a sense as to what your spinal flexibility and inner mobility are like. And we hope to use this new understanding of health. It's so simple. Head and spinal cord, chest, abdomen, pelvis. Each breath acts as an engine of health. It's possible to use a simple pulse oximeter to get highly integrative metrics that can give you feedback on the benefit of your daily activities. So I urge you to try this. We're offering a free 45-minute session online with a fitness trainer or a yoga practitioner using breathing-based meditation to give you a head start. We want to form a community that believes in every person's power to understand the basis of health, achieve persistent wellness and longevity, and give people back a sense that they have everything they need to I knew I'd forget this. They have everything they need to stay young and feel their best. Now, I'm going to go to this question mark here. And there's a couple of questions here. I'm really interested in improving my spinal flexibility. Are there any quick tips I can incorporate into my daily routine? Great question. And the answer is, I really don't want to tell you. I want you to explore. I want you to use this guide to check and see where you are and then throw it in a drawer. And go out and do whatever you feel works for you. Take a walk. Hiking's great. Going up and down, dropping your hips, stretching your spine naturally. Just do it. Just get up and say, movement has to be a part of my daily life. It's something I owe to myself. I think there may have been another question here. What does it mean if my readiness score is so low, and how can I work on that? And I think readiness score is more heart rate variability. And each app has its own little focus. Heart rate variability is focused on de-stressing, calming down, understanding that we get wired to think a lot, to react quickly, to have difficulty letting go. We can change that though. The neurons that we have in our brain are constantly reaching out to other neurons. They form synapses. And if we ask our brain to change the way we operate, it will. Ancient technique. Find a nice, calm, quiet place to sit. Sit balanced, not slumped over, not too rigid, just balance on your sit bones. Keep your eyes open. Look at the wall. And then breathe. And do nothing other than follow your breath. All meditation is having a focus which lets you leave behind that busy mind. The ancient Hindus called it the monkey mind. It's a really lovely metaphor. And as you do that on a daily basis, just for a few minutes, you get better at it. It gets easier. Your brain says, my CEO tells me I got to do something different. Well, we're going to get the factory working on that. And it's the same way with all of your organs and tissues. Just allow yourself to move well. Try not to get too stressed. Try to eat in a mindful way. Give yourself a chance to metabolize. Give your guts a chance to rest for a number of hours a day. And everything will get better. You'll feel well. And you'll understand how much power you have to really enjoy your life. Till next week, Jess Goodman, one of the iHeart team, signing off.